All right, so today we're going to talk about a 9-box succession planning. I've asked Nick here to come and talk about his team, use his team as an example. In this 9-box methodology, you want to understand that the 9 box is really what you're trying to get to is a replacement of you. So if you are the manager or you are the leader, we're going to try to move your team through the box in performance and breadth of knowledge so that they can take over your position. And by doing so, what we're going to also uncover is a performance review of the team, and also look for opportunities to shift things around to give opportunity to improve performance and also increase breadth while achieving company and performance goals. All right, Nick, so we're going to start with you. Give me a list of your employees.
Tony, Steve, Nat, and Bruce.
All right, in step 1, what we want to do is identify each of the team members. And at this point, it's really important to understand what is their job role, what is their job description, and what you're doing is evaluating how well are they performing at that role in performance and breadth of knowledge. This is where you're going to identify what is the current state. So when you're thinking about Tony and where he's at and how he's performing as a team member, where would you place him? Knowing that 1 is the lowest performing area, and the opportunity here is either to remove this person off the team or improve their performance. Before we go any further, the one thing and advice I want to give you is that you have to be willing to check your team just as well as you would check anyone else's. And so get really honest about where people are. That doesn't necessarily mean you're looking for the lowest performer, but you really, in order to help them move forward in their careers and then also achieve organization goals, you have to get really real about where people are. Mm-hmm. So given what you know about Tony and how well he's performing in the team, where would you place Tony today?
I would think I'd put him at a 3. I mean, the 3 spot right here.
So this is telling him that he has a lot of breadth of knowledge, but he's really low performing. So at this point, he's like probably not coming to work. He probably is not a contributor, missing deadlines, has tons of potential, but is just not achieving there. Is that where an accurate placement of Tony still?
Yes, because he's more like not a team player.
Okay. But he has a lot to give still?
But he's very smart and intelligent.
All right, so we're going to place Tony here. So we're saying that his knowledge is medium and what he can contribute, but his performance is really low. Mm-hmm. What about Steve? Where would you place Steve?
Steve, I would... He's a high performer, but he has low breadth. He's more of a follower. Take orders and go.
Okay.
He doesn't stick out as far as breadth.
Okay. So do you think is it because, well, we'll get to where, in this point of the stage, or in this stage, you want to get to how can we get them forward? So just for today, for right now, tell me you think Steve is a 4, given he's really high in performance, but the task and the duties that he can do are very narrow.
Yes.
Okay. And Steve has tons of potential?
Oh, highly. He listens, he's motivated. He's there when we need him.
Great. And what about Nat?
Nat is right in the middle. I would put her right in the middle, like at the 5. She has knowledge and she's a performer, but she can do better.
Okay.
If she's coached in the right area.
So Nat has some opportunity. Maybe this is where leadership starts to come in, or maybe taking on more duties or contributing more. Okay, this is great. We'll put Nat here.
Okay.
And what about Bruce?
Bruce is almost my star performer. He's smart and he gets the job done. So I put him at about a 7 right now.
Okay. Is Bruce already taking on leadership opportunities within the team?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And he has opportunities still to grow his knowledge base before he can take on your role?
Oh, of course. There's still a lot of stuff that I know that he doesn't.
Okay, great. This is awesome. And so what the next step really is You have to get really real about what is the role that you play today and what will your role look like in the next couple years. As you take on in a company, you take on different challenges, and we're always going through change to evolve and to also adjust to what's going on in the world around us. And so it's really important to assess, and this is again, same as you would check your team and just like you would check someone else, is the same if you were going to write the job description of your role to maybe 3, 4, 5 years from now, what would that look like? And that's really where you're trying to move your team. But in between then, there's also some jobs that need to be done immediately to meet some corporate goals or company goals or achieve that product. And so that's where you're going to identify what are those big chunks of work that need to be done, and how can I reposition my team to get those jobs done, as well as give them opportunity to grow in performance or shift into a different leadership type of role. And so now we're going to do is, after you have identified what those jobs are, and Nick, you have that in your head, you have some big challenges ahead of you. And so when we look at the potential that Tony has to solve those problems, what do you think we can do? Is it really just about improving his performance and trying to shift him up into the 5 box?
Yeah, I mean that, or at least try to get him better, just a better performer. He's smart, so we do want him in the 8, but right now let's try to get him in the 5 just to go get him up there.
That's a good point. Thank you for bringing that up. So Tony does have the potential to go from a 5 to an 8 or to a 7. It's really up to him. When you have a low performer, it's a give and take situation. Sometimes you don't know what's going on in these people's homes. You don't know what's going on in the world around them. And so it's really a good time to have a conversation with Tony. Have you had that conversation with him? And if you hadn't, do that now and determine whether or not, is there something that you need to take off of Tony's plate? Maybe give it to Natasha so she can grow her leadership, or Steve so that he can grow his breadth of knowledge.
I think I'd give it to Steve because Natasha's already on her way. She knows what she's doing. Steve needs more guidance and more knowledge, more breadth, as you say, to progress to the 9. At least try to get him to the 7.
What do you think about, because he's more of a senior folk, and
he's been here for a while.
Okay.
That's why he has more knowledge.
Okay. Do you think there's an opportunity to partner Steve and Tony together, and then maybe that would give Tony some responsibility, pull his knowledge, his performance up?
Because it would actually give him less duties and other stuff, and his focus would be on Steve to progress Steve, which would bring him up and Steve to the 7 block.
Great. So what we're talking about here is really taking some trade-offs and figuring out, well, this person has maybe more of a performance in a way of my soft skills, how do I come to work, how do I contribute? This is something that the manager is going to have to write a performance plan with Tony, but also look for opportunities for him and Steve to partner so that they can come together. Steve will get that breadth of knowledge from Tony, move him into the 5 box, knowing that when Steve takes on more, his performance may go down. That is not by any means a bad thing. It just means he needs time to get over that learning curve. But Tony, what we're going to try to do with Tony by making this partnership is improve his capabilities and bring that performance up. Tony has 2 different options here. He can continue to grow his performance, or maybe by giving up some of his work to Steve, he can also take on more and grow his breadth of knowledge. There's a lot can be done with Tony. So really the point here is that just because you have a low performer today, you really need to do the layers of the onion and find out what is going on. Now, I do want to call out that in this situation, if this trade-off doesn't work and Tony does not want to improve his performance, the next step is out. Because what you want to do is make sure that Tony is not bringing down the rest of the team. Because if you have one bad blueberry in that basket, as one mentor has told me, that the bottom, you don't see that bad blueberry at the bottom of the basket, and it could be corrupting the rest of the blueberries. So for that, you want to make sure that Tony is out if he's not going to abide by what the performance plan is. Now for Natasha, and then you have Bruce. So Bruce's work is he's got lots of breadth of knowledge, right? He's ready to shift over. Are there things, this is something now you want to start thinking about your role? Because Bruce is right now is your top performer, and so is Natasha. They may be at different levels of the organization. That's another thing to consider. Different grade levels have different grade level expectations, and they're paid accordingly. So you want to make sure that if Bruce and Nat are in different grade levels, be respectful of what kind of work you give her. But also, if you're going to give her something that's going to challenge her to that next grade level, that's amazing. Make sure that she has the support as she moves forward. Now, when we're talking about your succession plan and how you're going to evolve in your own role, think of some of the things that you may need to take off your plate, just like we did with Tony, but you want to take off some of your plate so that you can also grow into that role that you need to be. And so this is where we want to talk about Bruce and Natasha trade-off. So if Bruce is going to take on some of your work, then we'll give Natasha some of Bruce's work. Are there things that you can give Bruce that would help him grow his knowledge? And then what we want to do with Bruce is one of these. Get him into the 8 and then grow his performance.
Oh, yes. I have plenty of stuff to give him.
And then Natasha as well?
Oh, yes.
Do you feel like now that you have a pretty well idea of how you're going to go into those performance reviews and help your team really get to the next level?
Yes.
All right, great. Well, thank you so much for your time. What I really wanted to do is give you a quick overview of what this 9 box is all about. It gives you an opportunity to look at your team and the big picture of where they're going and where they're at today. Help them move forward so they can grow with the company and start achieving. Thank you very much. It's my pleasure.
Did it record?